What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Week 15. Dave and Ade, are you in your fantasy play? Did you make your fantasy playoffs? No, you didn't. That's probably why you're here. You want to pretend like it was never. No, I don't care about season-long fantasy. That was a thing of the past. I used to do that years ago. Then it was DFS. Now sports betting legal. Don't bring that up. Dave, how'd your fantasy season go? It's something I never really talked about with you, but now, since I guess it's fantasy playoffs for, your chalk standard 9-to-5 original hometown league.
It's funny. I don't do much season long anymore, man. I'm in
not even the original league with the Philly guys.
We disbanded, a matter of fact, because it just, the truth is, the older you get, the worse being a commissioner is horrible, right? Of a league, especially where you have a few assholes that just want to make it difficult. Because what happens is, like, you have your buddies and everybody's tight, and then one of them drops out. You bring somebody else in, and they're like, "Hey, this guy's cool. He's cool." And then it turns out he's not, right? And then and then it happens again, and now you've got like 3 or 4 guys that are outsiders looking in. They're buddies with one guy. Oh, they'll pay this, and then they just make the league miserable. And then the commissioner doesn't want to deal with it anymore. I don't want to be a commissioner, so I'm in a couple leagues. Also, Andy, with betting, with DFS every week, with everything else, I feel bad joining leagues because I'll legitimately forget to set my lineups.
Oh, joining is out of the question.
Yeah,
this is just a legacy program.
Yes,
it's those
right,
that are still existing. Those who are still on iPhone 5 can continue to use their iPhone 5. There aren't any new iPhone 5s. And shame on if somebody in my original league, the hometown league, tried to drop out, they would be lambasted.
Absolutely.
You're not allowed to drop out.
Yep.
Are you nuts? No, you're not dropping out. We will force you to stay by sheer shame and ridicule. And then you bring in a random new person, like you said, you think they're cool, but they can't handle the depth of those comments in the group chat. So now you have the fantasy group chat, and then the commissioner has to do separate text to you. Well, here's what's going on now. They have to relay what's gone on in a Royal Rumble chat off to the side. Anyway, we're here focused on some sports betting. That's what's at the forefront of everything these days. Last week, I think it was, looking back, it was a pretty good week for this guy. I mean, I went in with the Dans on, I think we both went in on one Dan. Mine was the Chargers. I went in with them. Did I cover with that? I mean... Chargers, they lost on a last-second field goal. So
you did. Without Ladd McConkey, without Will Dissly, you still got the cover. That Kansas City team, man, we're going to talk about them today against Cleveland.
The one that stood out to me was like one you were kind of stressing about, and I just truly, none of the spreads ever stress me out because there's a clear right side, clear wrong side. You'll be right, you'll be wrong. I didn't have to think about the Rams. I said it's 3.5. You know what I'm doing. They made it easy for me. I don't have to think about it. It's very simple. Give me the home underdog getting 3.5 points. And if there are more like that today, I'm going to do it once again today. I think we're starting to get more of an even distribution of favorites, underdogs, public bets versus public underdogs.
I don't know. Right? I mean, yes and no. Like, I always, it's funny. Like, you can sometimes judge where the public's at by looking at comments on YouTube. By the way, a lot of them are shout outs to the Dave and Dan show. So thank you guys.
And also everybody, I never really specified where I want you to send me your video that I will plug into this show. So I haven't even really known where to look. So I have an email that I haven't really used too much. So either you can DM on Twitter or Instagram. I'll go into those requests. Lord knows what else is in there. Or if you want, you can email Pickin' Corners without a G, pickincornersshow@gmail.com from when I did a Friday hockey show that I call Pickin' Corners. So pickincornersshow@gmail.com or DM me on Twitter or Instagram. And what you have to do is come up with your own way how to tell people to like, comment, and engage with this show. You can even ridicule me or Dave or Dan if you'd like, and I'll try to include a different one every single week. Maybe I'll even include it in my other videos as well, a way that I can get you freaks involved with the show. Hopefully that goes well, but I am still a little scared. So you guys want me to include your clip, just send it to me, and I'll let Dave continue to pat you on the back for supporting on his videos as well.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was doing. What I ultimately meant was that you can always tell where people are in the comments.
Yeah, they're usually outside the gates of hell, judging by most of comments.
For sure.
They're on their last bet, and if things don't go their way tonight, it's all over.
Yep.
They
So
are
you know what they
bankrupt,
do?
and they're hoping 2 guys on YouTube can pull them out of that pit.
Yeah, good luck. What I mean, like, okay, last week Panthers, you knew public money was going to come in on that, and it would keep moving. It's like 14, and like that was the easiest spot out there. The one spot I was wrong that I liked was Cleveland against Pittsburgh, just because that Pittsburgh team, you know, it's weird spots like that where everybody's on a team.
How are they doing this?
Well, that's a good game this week against the Eagles. But there was also another one. I can't remember the specific game right now. Maybe you do, where we talked about it just being, hey, the public is going to love this. And by the way, it doesn't mean the public's always going to lose or always going to lose. Obviously, I hate when people pretend that, like, if the public bets something, that means that it's 100% to win to the sharp side. Obviously not.
If that was the case, then those would be the donkey plays.
Exactly.
It's the perfect chlorine balance in a pool. When the pH levels go too low on this side, it feels like a lot of underdogs win. Then when you start betting on that side too much, then the other side. It's just this balance beam of chasing your tail, which is why I always chase things like the DeMario Douglas. And by the way, somebody was livid. They're like, no, I'm not. I'm still taking them this week. They were on bye last week, and somebody was adamant that they're still going to take him. I was like, all right, fine. But he did bring up the point. He goes, stop saying he didn't cover. Apparently, he's covered his receptions every single week, so he still has a streak going. All right, how about we take a look at the games for this weekend? See if we can find a couple sniffs within there. So why don't we start? Dolphins-Texans. I know what we can revisit. We can revisit the 5 yardage totals that I said I bet you 3 of these hit between Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Tyreek Hill, Devon Achane, and Jalen Waddle. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did 4 out of those 5 hit because the totals were all so low? I mean, Adams and Wilson had to. They were both over 100, around 100. Tyreek Hill was over 100. I believe Jalen Waddle was over 50. So the only one that leaves in question is Achane. And I was right about those damn low totals. And that's why I love low totals, because
Jonnu didn't hit, did he?
But Jonnu was excluded from that.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Although he did have like 50 yards in overtime.
44 total, yeah. Tyreek Hill definitely hit. Waddle had 99. That definitely hit.
So that means 4 of the 5 alts hit.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Achane had 45 receiving. And
oh my God, 5 of 5 alts hit. Alts.
Crazy, right? Crazy.
Jesus.
Do you go
and
back
that's
to
what
it
and that's what we get with teams like the Jets, who are no longer in it. Now let's start slinging it around. Now let's start being silly. Let's start having a good time. I think you're going to see more of that as we get later in the year. If you could sniff out this meaningless ruckus, you see this in the NHL a lot. Meaningless ruckus will provide crazy opportunities. Now, you got to look for potential catalysts. They both have quarterbacks who can get their receivers the ball, theoretically. We're not talking about Desmond Ridder out there. But in this case, you would have hit 5 out of 5 alts. Now, in this particular game, I saw Tyreek Hill. I bet you it's gone up since then, but I know on BetMGM yesterday, I saw him in the upper 60s. And if that was the case, I'm happy to go over that. That's back-to-back good games now for Tyreek Hill. There you go, 68.5 on BetMGM. I'm still okay with that. That's not that much more than last week. I think he was, low 60s or something like that. This is not a massive jump. He still has that potential. And now you're talking about back-to-back good weeks here. And a guy like Tyreek Hill, man, not only can he go... I mean, look, a loss is a loss. But the win, you have much laddering potential here.
I hear you. I've been on Hill for a while now, and the first couple of weeks I went there, it did not work out particularly well. But betting in the score has as well because he scored in 4 of his last 5. But yeah, Jalen Petry's out for Houston. He's done for the year with a torn pec. Aziz Al-Shair is also out with that suspension after that hit on Trevor Lawrence. They have some good pieces on defense, but those are 2 significant pieces on the defense that you're losing there. It only helps more. I think this game has real shootout potential. And some people could argue, oh, yeah, well, it's Tua away from home. He can't. It's like they're in a dome. Who cares?
God, people say that about an indoor game in
all
Houston?
the time. Well, they said it about the Lambeau game too, and then came back into my comments to Victory Lap, and it's like, it's very easy to tell a story when you ripped out most of the pages, right? And like Tua had in that Lambeau game because they only scored 17, they lost, they didn't cover. He was 37 for 46 with 365 yards and 2 touchdowns.
But how
right?
can you compare that, even like this theoretical gargoyle that I'm painting in my head, the picture of this guy just screaming these things? How can that guy make the jump from I don't trust this guy in 10 degrees in Green Bay to I don't trust this guy indoors in Houston in one of the most standard 9 to 5 environments ever? How is he making that argument?
What I'm saying is those 2 conversations go hand in hand though, because like the whole running narrative is he can't perform well in bad weather. It's like, well, that looks good to me, so of course, like I take all of that shit with a grain of salt. Seriously, these are grown men, man. Like they're grown men that get the piss beat out of them for a living. You're playing in who cares? I truly don't care at all.
This should not be a donkey chart game. I don't think people are very thrilled about betting the Texans in any way, shape, or form the way they've played this year to the same extent.
Stroud has not been great.
No.
I like the over a little bit.
The one catalyst for him does seem to be Nico Collins. Like Nico Collins happens to open up a ton for them. And when he was out,
what really opens it up is if they can get Mixon going.
But to really get that score moving, the vertical threat of Collins seemingly needs to be there.
What I'm saying is like when Mixon really can't get going, this team starts to have some issues because they want to run the football. And yes, Nico breaks everything wide open. That's what you're saying. Like if you're trying to break a game open, Nico does that. If you're trying to run a functional offense, you got to get Mixon going. So it's kind of, both of them are really required to get it working. But I don't know about you. Right now, with the way this Dolphins team is playing, I bet the over on 22.5 team total on Tuesday. Fine, win or lose, whatever. But you look, since Tua has come back, they scored. Listen to this, Andy. Since Tua has returned, most of these. No, actually, that's not true. I was going to say, since Tua returned, 27 points, 27, 23. That was that weird game in LA, right? Remember that they got the win. 34, 17 in Green Bay again, and then 32 against the Jets. Even if it hadn't gone to overtime, that's still 26. This team is putting up a ton of yards and a lot of points, and they have all of the weapons at their disposal to make it happen.
Don't hate that whatsoever. Completely fine with it. They're starting, not fully. They're not looking quite as dynamic as early last year, but they may be on the way. So I'm cool with that. Let's go to the next one. You got
to take the Jags. You have to. How do you not take? The Jets have blown 4 of their last 5 leads in the fourth quarter. 4 of the last 5 games are fourth quarter blown. Like, but if you want to say the Jags have mailed it in, the Jets are going to mail it in as well, right?
It's weird. Mail it in football, I think has a different. I think the Ravens have a chance of mailing it in. That's a mail in, meaning like you're not getting their true performance. This is different when I talk about bad teams. It's like caution to the wind. Who cares? It's different than Mailing it in means we're not trying. This means we're playing with no strings attached. It's like,
well, let me rephrase it then.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is if you're acting like these teams are intentionally tanking, let me put it to you that way, right? For a draft pick. Because you're absolutely right. I agree with everything you just said. But the Jags didn't tank last week, and they hurt themselves in the process beating the Titans. So, I mean,
yeah, it's simple. This is no different than the Chargers. You show me any team. I don't have to think hard about this. Okay, home team plus 3.5. I don't care if that said Buffalo Bills. I would still take plus 3.5 Jags,
right,
because it's just formula based for me. I'm not being the donkey betting against the home 3.5, whether they're enticing me with the Jets or they're enticing me with another team. I just don't have to think about it. And then I don't lose sleep over it like the rest of you gargoyles. One thing that I do have to now see, Alex, if you can off to the side, just show me the Adams and Wilson, because I do think you'll get, when all is said and done, you're talking about one of the worst pass defenses, if not the worst in the NFL. And then in Rodgers, who has no worries, nothing to worry about anymore. Last week looked fine. First time he threw for 300 yards. And when, the strings are not attached anymore and you're not trying to convince yourself you can make the playoffs and there's truly nothing to worry about, you're stat building. And 64 for Adams. And what do we got for Wilson? Oh, my God. 59?
Yeah, you kind of have to do it, don't you? You kind of have to pull the trigger. And no Breece Hall in the passing game.
Well, how about this? If I take 80 for both, neither of them are getting there? Come on. What kind of game is this? Is this going to be a 10-7 nail-biter?
I mean, their target shares are wild right now, too.
And there's not a worry in the world. There's not a worry in the world. These teams, they don't give a rat's ass about anything. I'm doing it. I'm trying 60, 70, 80, 90. I think I'm going with Garrett Wilson. He got 100 on Jalen Ramsey last week.
Yeah, I like them both. I mean, Adams is just seeing double-digit targets every single week. And really, Jacksonville, you meant they're a pass funnel defense. You're without Breece Hall. You're looking at what? Isaiah Davis and Braylon Allen?
Oh, if you had another team that could just put points up to make the Jets even care less and be more aggressive, that's the only thing that bothers me. But what good does winning a low-scoring game even do for the Jets at this point? I feel like the Jets are playing for exclamation points either way, and at least getting people to talk, maybe another year. Look at that. They're starting to click at the end of the year on offense, a couple of straight games. All right. I'm doing some Adams and Wilson. I mean, that Wilson 59.5 is just insane to me. All right, Alex, what's next on the old, and is that donkey chart worthy despite the Jets never covering? It can't be. No, it's not. Bettors who get kicked in the nuts don't go back to teams. Chiefs-Browns, this is one that you, I guess, were waiting to talk about. Let's start with tips. Give me some crime dog tips if you click under right there. Let's see what they have to tell us. Okay, at least they're steering us away from the Chiefs. Keep going. There you go. That's one of your points in that last one. That's funny. Look at these back-to-back points. Scroll to the previous one, Alex.
Yeah, that they haven't covered in 100 straight, but they've won 18 of 19.
Yeah, that is insane.
Unbelievable.
Right, you can minimize these. So you've kind of been focusing on this team a lot when talking about how poor they are as big favorites, how they've actually been pretty good as small favorites.
Yeah.
When he's an underdog. So where does this one lie? This is not a big favorite, but it's not under a field goal. Where do they lie in the 4-point range?
Here's what I would do. First of all, I grabbed the Browns at 5.5. So one way or another, we look okay there, win or lose. When you grab these on a Monday, by the way, this is a fun show to do. I love it, matter of fact, and I love talking through all these lines.
But
if you really are like trying to jump on early lines, Andy talks about Dans all the time. The Dans are throwing their bets in Sunday at noon Eastern. right?
Oh, that's being kind. It's
So, yeah, Sunday at
12:56.
12:53. Yeah, it's
Yo, what a Price is Right game. Yo, we all take bets. Like, we were shown a picture of a bettor. What time were his Sunday bets placed? And Price is Right style, 12:21. Ding! It goes up, and all of our guesses are up there.
That would be
and
great.
Closest to the time. They're all at 12:52. I mean, they're all.
Yeah.
I mean, some are after 1.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So-
right before kickoff. Yeah. Oh, I forgot to get a bet. I forgot to get a bet down. The Seahawks are playing in a minute. Yeah.
Oh, wait. Garrett Wilson's only 73. I'll take that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure. The movement you do, because I know you're not huge on sides, but like the prop game too. You look at some of these props, you could get insane movement. I remember when you and I were going back and forth on Malik Neighbors early in the season, and I was like, dude, I grabbed it at 55.5 or whatever, and you had said, to your credit, like, yeah, I hate going to the rookies, and I had a different opinion just on none of that's important. But I remember DMing you and being like, well, it's at 68 now or something, so whatever. I can live with that. That's the kind of the way I look. I would be a lot more upset if you grabbed it at 68 and then like found out, oh wait, it was 55.5 when it came out on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Same thing with a lot of these lines. You see some really significant movement, and especially when they're moving through key numbers. Anyway, I think the fun spot to bet this week, I think you sprinkle on the Browns money line. Jameis Winston's the perfect guy. So
the first word that came to my head was not fun.
Why though? Why, dude? All right, it's either just going to be a wrap, or you get that Jameis Winston experience, like the Jameis Winston experience against Baltimore. They got the win. The Jameis Winston experience against Pittsburgh in the snow. They got the win. Jameis Winston cost them the win against the Broncos, right? He was not good last time against the Steelers. He was not good against the Saints, but it's a home spot. This team, you know how you were saying teams throwing, teams throw caution to the wind when they're out of it?
Yeah.
You're now
no strings,
the Raiders should have beat the Chiefs. Raiders should have beat the Chiefs on Black Friday.
Yeah.
Antonio Pierce is an imbecile, okay? But this is one of those games where it's like they just fold, or they play spoiler against a team that is escaping by the skin of their teeth every single week. It's not the conviction that I have in the Browns to win. It's that you get to bet the Browns to win against a team that is slipping by a point. Each of their last 4 or 5 wins have been by 2 or 3 points. I love getting the Jameis Winston experience and going, look, if anyone's going to blow this game, it's Jameis. But if anyone's going to beat the Chiefs at home, it's going to be Jameis Winston, man. I'm telling you.
I take that back. If you're a bettor and you just don't lose your shit if you lose a bet, then that is going to be a fun experience because you'll be leading at some point. You'll be ahead at some point.
Yes.
And then you'll be trailing.
Jameis might throw a pick six.
And then you'll be leading. So that would be the roller coaster ride in that game. Last week, I told you I was going to do something that it's not easy to do in life. I ate the juice. I try not to do it, but there was a minus 140 that was only available on one side. I got to take it. All the signs are pointing towards it. And I got to take that under on Kareem Hunt's rushing attempts at 8.5. He had 2 or 3 going into the final drive, which was essentially taking knees. It was just to kind of set up the field goal. So he ended up with maybe 5 or something like that. And Pacheco got that next bump in workload and went over on his rushing total. Not by a ton, but you're just seeing the continued integration of Pacheco. And if you can show me his rushing total, Alex, if you can pull up Isaiah Pacheco's rushing total, if I see a fair number here, I do not mind going back to that again because
I think it's like 57 or something, or 56.
That is doable. As I just mentioned, 3 carries for Kareem Hunt until they essentially took knees to get the field goal. And there were a bunch of inspiring runs from Pacheco on the final drive. So he got better as that game went along. So now this is going to be his 3rd game back. And I know they're not favored by a ton, but they are still favored in this game. And unless you think they're going to start swinging back to Kareem Hunt. So, okay, you know what? We lightened Kareem Hunt's workload. We ramped up Pacheco. You know what? Let's go back to a 50-50 in game 3. Let's go back to a 50-50. So if it's over and I showed you this number for Pacheco week 4, would you be excited for it? I think a lot of people are saying yes, because if you remember, he was the key cog in this offense all of last season. And then once those injuries happened, it was him and Rashee Rice earlier this season. And then they promptly both got injured, yet the Chiefs still managed to find ways to win, which is actually pretty incredible when you put it that way. 56.5, 55.5. That's a fair number if you ask me.
I love it. I was also heavy on the unders for Kareem Hunt. I went rushing yards, didn't go rushing attempts, but we had the same thinking there. Like for you,
did you text me and you said,
you
said, his numbers just brought
33.5, man, because remember, Kareem Hunt's more of a plotting type of back anyway. The only way he was getting there to begin with was with 23 carries, and he barely claw by like 90 yards. So, the way you were thinking and the way I was thinking is mostly just you bring Pacheco back, who's a hard runner. He's good, great after contact. And Kareem Hunt, who, they brought the guy off the couch. They brought him back because he had familiarity in the offense. They knew that they could run him till the wheels fell off, get Pacheco back. Thank you, sir, for your service. And that's it. And I think you're going to see more of that this week. My guess also is that Kareem Hunt unders won't have any value left on him either.
Probably.
I think we got in and got out. Yeah.
Like the under 1.5 catches for him was like minus 112, minus 115.
Yeah. Now it'll be half, if anything.
All right, let's scroll down to the next game that we have available to us here. No buys, by the way. Buys are a thing of the past.
Yep.
As we mentioned, it is fantasy playoff time. Bengals,
2 Monday night
Titans.
games, too.
That's very interesting, actually. Bengals-Titans. The Bengals, they did everything they could once again to lose.
Yep.
But it's unbelievable with them.
I think
and then the Titans did everything they could to lose. The only difference is they did. They did.
That team is that Will Levis, man. He is. I can't tell you how many times, because we do like in our Discord, we do some round robin touchdown parlays and stuff. Just that's like the lottery ticket of the week to have some fun.
Yeah.
And I've just been putting Ridley in there because you're getting him at like plus 280 every week. I can't tell you how many targets he had in the end zone that were just nowhere even close to. You would have had a better opportunity to catch that if you were in the stands than Calvin. That's how bad these were. And even despite going for it on 4th down, left and right, they're awful. But do you think I'm not a big momentum guy? There's a part of me here that I legitimately wants to bet the Bengals, because even though they escaped that one by a stroke of luck, like that rule is crazy where you block a kick punt and it goes past the line of scrimmage, but if it's touched by a defender, it's now Cincinnati's ball and 1st down, right? Crazy.
Yeah, because a blocked punt could go 8 yards and just hit somebody who's right there, and that's
they
crazy.
Got punished. Yeah. They got penalized for making a good play. It's beyond me. Whatever. Not trying to relitigate the game or the rules here. What I'm saying though is maybe it gave the Bengals a little momentum going into this, because they've somehow found ways to lose despite scoring 30 points every week. I have a feeling this could be like a true get right. Too late, but like a real get right game for the Bengals. Maybe my read's just off. You guys can tell us in the comments. Maybe my read's far off here, but Joe Burrow's so good, and Chase, these guys are so good.
Well, you know what you're looking at right here. You're looking at the prime candidate, the captain of the donkey charts.
Yeah.
Has to be right here.
Maybe this is my Dan play.
This is Joe Burrow, freshly with his security, his model security team, his swimsuit model security team who reports that his house got broken into.
Burgled house, yep.
Yeah. That's all of them coming out saying, we're the Bengals, we're going on a late season run, we're going to sweep the board. How could you bet on the Titans? Did you see how Dave, the Titans couldn't have looked worse in a more winnable game against
at
a
home.
worse team.
At home.
And then they come home and are only 5-point underdogs. Tell me the Chiefs ain't winning this one by 3. I mean,
the Bengals, yeah. No, I mean, I think you're
I'm sorry, the Bengals ain't winning this one. Yeah.
I think you're probably right. But there's also that part of me that's like, can they
Yeah.
I didn't bet this game.
All of us have a little Dan in us. Like, there's a devil and an angel.
Yep.
That would be a good Photoshop.
That'd be great.
Dave and a Dan.
That'd be great.
I think I just stumbled onto something.
Some gold.
I think I just stumbled onto something. I love our thumbnail. It's pretty good. I think I just found a new banner for the show because that is certain a devil and an angel, a Dave and a Dan. All right, what do we got next here?
And by the way, I didn't bet that game. I think this is the donkey. I think this could be a donkey chart game.
Yeah, because there's no Derek Carr, so you're just talking about the big. By the way, another week, Alvin Kamara doesn't get injured. To me, this is the most amazing thing this NFL season. Yeah, it's crazier than all the stats.
Yeah, he's not hurt. He's just not good.
Which actually takes me to something that I want to start with. If you can pull up, what do you well, you probably know. If you are the sports book, you walk into Dave's sports book, you don't give a rat's ass what any of the other lines are. You go, I'm setting them here. That's what I'm doing. You get some deals, but you're also going to get screwed on some. What yardage total for rushing are you listing Alvin Kamara at?
All right, so last week's I was screaming from the rooftops to anybody that would listen.
We talked about Kendre Miller on this show, if you remember.
Yeah, that I think Kendre Miller is going to be involved with Darren Rizzi at head coach and Dennis Allingdawn. He ended up seeing 10 carries in that game. 10, okay? That's a lot for a guy in his first game back off the IR. He never would have seen that under Allen. Alvin Kamara had 17. So, like, yes, he out-touched him for sure. But, I would say, and this is against Washington, 69.5.
And what would you put his rushing and receiving at?
What would I personally put it at?
What would you set it at? I'm only betting. I call these pizzeria bets. Some people say, I don't have any sportsbook where I'm from. Like, what do? You go into your local pizzeria and put your bets in with the pizza man? So they're walking into your pizzeria and saying, Dave, I want to bet the under on Kamara rushing and receiving. You go, all right, well, then you got to take this number.
Oh, all right. So if I'm like setting the line, all right, because what I really think, and obviously I don't have anything to go in my head, I'd put Kamara at low 60s in rushing. I'd still have to have him around 92.5 rushing, receiving, 94, 5.5.
Okay. I think you gave very fair numbers. I really do think that you did. These numbers, which I believe, not 100% certain, may have opened up at 77. I'm not 100% certain. But 75.5 rushing for a guy who has been inefficient as a runner for 2+ seasons and relies on an absurd amount of rushing work, who won't even have Derek Carr there. All you need to do is go back and see those games that Carr missed to see what Kamara was able to do on the ground.
And Miller's involved.
And that was with getting all the work, beyond all the work. And he also got very frustrated at what the offense was doing when Carr wasn't in there. And that's really saying something because you know what Carr does when he is in there. So now you have this uptick in Kendre Miller's workload, this continued poor production from a guy who's approaching 30, and a line at 75.5 in a game they're double-digit underdogs in. So probably the rushing is better than the rushing and receiving, but the rushing and receiving was north of 100. And this one here is 75.5. I like the under on that. We've given that earlier this year. We've actually never been screwed on Kamara under so far, which is pretty interesting because 112.5, 112.5.
It's a big
112
number.
Peaches and Cream was a song. 112.5. And I know he could be, but this isn't Derek Checkdown's car exactly, but I know they don't have pass catchers. I might regret it, but man, that's a huge number. Is Alvin Kamara getting 115 yards this weekend?
It's so. I think I would rather though. I would rather bet the under on rushing.
I know, but tell me that doesn't seem appealing. Look at that.
It's super appealing. It is. I mean, it's a really, really big number with this offense currently, constructed the way it is. I think I look at it like this. I still have more faith in Alvin Kamara as a pass catcher than as a rusher. That I'm very uncomfortable thinking that he can just go out there and keep ripping off big rushing yard totals because, you look at him in easy matchups, like against the Panthers. Sure, he ran all over the Panthers. That run defense is awful. You look at him against the Giants last week, even without Dexter Lawrence, he had 44 against Cleveland, 67 on 60. They could be playing from behind as well against their 7.5-point dogs. I hear you. I like both. I would lean. I would go under on rushing.
You thought this was donkey chart worthy?
I don't know. We'll at the end of the show, right? We'll take our guesses for.
It has to be, right? I mean,
feels like it, doesn't it?
I would be shocked if you gave that to Steve Harvey and he's not flipping any number on the board.
Right.
If that got a big X,
I would be surprised. And I think if I didn't bet this game, I think I have 6 games I bet so far. If I did, I would bet the Saints. Like laying over a touchdown on this Commanders team on the road to me seems like a fool's errand. That's a ton of points for a road team with a rookie quarterback.
All right, next up, we got Cowboys.
Oh, I love
Panthers.
this one. I love this one.
I think the regular thought is to like the Panthers. They almost won. I mean, they're covering left and right. Only 3-point favorites.
People have been calling me dumb all week in my videos, which maybe they're right. That this just feels like the type of game that people will love Carolina, right?
Yeah, they have to. They
almost beat the Eagles on a Xavier Legette drop. Could have changed the whole dynamic of that game. They took the Bucs to overtime the previous week. The week before that, they almost beat the Kansas City Chiefs. They beat the Saints, which led to Dennis Allen losing his job. I just go down the list of this team. People are going, hey, this team's on the upswing. They beat the Giants. I mean, I'm telling you, this is going to be really fun when we have the big reveal. I think the Panthers could be atop the donkey charts this week. I'll stick to my word. I said I was waiting, but if this moved to 3, I would bet the Cowboys. The Cowboys should have won that game or at least taken it to overtime against the Bengals. All anyone remembers is the Bengals winning because Dallas got screwed. By the way, I bet the Bengals, so I'm very happy that it happened. But I got lucky. I just can't imagine anyone out there that wants to bet the Cowboys right now. It's moved from 1 to 1.5 to 2 to 2.5 to 3, Andy, since it opened.
Another sniff that we weren't just right about, we were extra right about, was A.Theilen, whose total was in the 40s last week. And his alt receptions, they hit to the max. The max they allowed on Caesars was 9, and FanDuel was 8. That's how many catches he had last week.
He was awesome. He's the only guy. And by the way, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe sharp money's moving the Panthers up, and I just have a wrong read on this. Totally possible.
My thought is that they have to have him at like 53.5 now.
I'd be all over that. I think Legette has proven himself untrustworthy at this stage of the game.
Yep.
And remember last year when there was no Deontay Johnson or anything, A.Theilen was the clear top guy in that offense.
I mean, should I be setting lines? This is 2 straight weeks here.
Nice work. That's. Wait, is that 50.5 on DraftKings?
Yes.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to not like A.Theilen. I said, you know what's funny, Andy? I'm glad I mentioned. So I do the picks for every game video, and I go, look, we'll see how this line moves, but I can tell you right now that we're going to have something on Thielen and Chuba Hubbard this week. Like we have to. We have to. What's Hubbard at? because Jonathan Brooks tore his ACL again.
Yeah, and also there's Miles Sanders on IR. I think the one thing that I noticed about Chuba Hubbard, it's extremely high, but I don't think there's a number that can be high enough, and that was like 16 and a half rushing attempts or something.
Oh yeah, I think it's at like 88 and a half rushing yards or something.
Yeah, so I wouldn't necessarily, it's just too high for me. So
that's a big number.
I mean, that's crazy.
Thielen's probably the answer.
But I am willing to take the 16 and a half, which is also high on rushing attempts. But there are ways to get there. You know, they could be on the goal line, and all of a sudden you get 2-3 shots. That takes out 3 quick. Like there are ways to get to those rushing attempts that don't require as many successful runs. What is this, 18 and a half? I think this thing's moving up. You need 20 carries? I got to go to Fliff? Man, this is getting wild now. Jesus.
He played 95% of snaps last week. Like I'm not betting the over on carries here. There's just way too much that can go wrong there. I think the value's probably on Thielen, honestly. 50 yards.
Baltimore Giants, quick a minus 1430 money line. That's pretty hilarious. You just have to be worried about the Ravens mailing this one in.
I'm not.
However, this does look like a game where Derrick Henry can just kind of go completely off. Let's go to the next one. This doesn't move the needle for me.
Oh, quickly, if you had to guess, what's Derrick Henry's rushing yard prop this week?
92.
All right, 99. See, I thought it would have been over 100, like well over 100 in this spot. Anyway, go ahead.
Wait a minute. Should we be taking his backup for alts? Does that ever work? That's something I never really thought about. Blowout backups.
Yeah, it could, but I guess the question becomes, are you Keaton Mitchell or Justice Hill? Keaton Mitchell might actually be the answer there, because Justice Hill's used in a very specific capacity. Keaton Mitchell hasn't really gotten any work this year. If they do go up early, and mind you, Lamar's only lost 2 career starts to the NFC. One of them last game because they had a bye. Last game against the Eagles. The only one prior to that was a couple of years ago against this very same Giants team with a bunch of fluky plays, and they had a come from behind win in the 4th. But Keaton Mitchell wasn't active, wasn't active last game. But if he's active, maybe if you get like a 2.5 yard rush, or like it would probably be like 6.5.
Well, the thing is, I would only take 25, 35 because he may get the whole 4th quarter of carries if it's an absolute beating.
Or, yeah, true. Because, that's not the worst call, because if he just doesn't play at all, which we saw in week 12, like he didn't even step on the field, then your bet just voids anyway.
Yeah, that's interesting. Patriots-Cardinals. That guy, he's back on tomorrow. He said he bet him last week. He was refunded. He's going back to the receptions this week. It hasn't missed apparently since this whole DeMario craze started. I'll leave that to the guy in the comments to answer for the rest of you. I've already hopped off the train. I loved the ride. I'm not one of those double vacationers where I go, I'm going to go back to that same place every year. No, I went there. I saw it. I don't need to go back to Mykonos. All right. I know it's great. All you DeMario people love it. I got other places to be this weekend. Patriots-Cardinals. Cardinals, really, that was a letdown performance by them. The defense looked incredible for a couple weeks. And then Zach Charbonnet just goes buck wild on them last week. And it's a weird thing trying to figure that out. What are you smelling here?
Nothing. I'll sprinkle on Trey McBride to score again because it's getting insane. This guy has 80.
That was another thing we got to on a junk drive, but man, we had a lot of decent sniffs last week. Yeah. The McBride, Jesus,
that was all you. This one though, he has 80 receptions with no touchdowns. Eventually, I mean that's a really remarkable number. The fact that he has 80.
Go down to the next one, Alex. I don't need to hear this guy telling me yet again to bet the damn touchdown bet.
Do it. Bet the touchdown with me. Let's ride.
Colt.
Oh, look at that. Perfect timing. Let's ride. Go ahead.
Let's ride. A lot of 4s. We got a +4 and over 44.
Yeah. I don't hate the
Wait, wait.
Broncos.
Was there what was the name of that beer? Colt?
45?
Is that
You
what it
mean
was? Colt 45?
like the 40, like the malt liquor?
Yeah, wasn't there something called
Colt 45.
Yeah, Colt 45? In my head, I just named it Colt 44 because I was just looking at the team and the total right now.
It was a malt liquor.
Yeah, I remember it was disgusting. Fully disgusting. That was something you drank like in high school when you had to bring beer to a party or something.
It was it's what I drank when I had a fake ID at 17 and the only place I could go was to take a trip to the ghetto in Trenton to where they wouldn't actually check to see my ID.
I'll never forget at a defunct pharmacy that used to be called Genevieve's. I don't know if they had those where you were growing up. Then I think it maybe turned into like Dwayne Reed and then something else. There was this Indian woman named Harvinder. And she was from India. She had no clue that young people couldn't buy alcohol. Like she just truly didn't know the laws, and she scanned it as if I was buying Fruit Loops. She just thought like I was buying Cokes. It was truly innocent. She had no clue. She just scanned it, and then I paid for it, and that was it. So it was a little glitch in the system we found.
That's amazing.
Harvinder just, working the cashier. Hey, look, you want groceries? I'm here to sell you groceries. I had no clue there were such things as age limits.
You found the glitch. You found the glitch in the Matrix. That's amazing.
So Colts Broncos, all these games
or at Broncos, but I don't have a real read.
Yeah, nothing. All those games where I found props, and I guess they were in the earlier ones. Next, we got.
I just don't like betting. Well, we can move on, but I don't like betting Anthony Richardson on the road against a good defense.
Oh God! I was hoping
3.5.
3.5.
I think you got to go Bills here, but honestly, I don't know if there's even a right answer in this game. Bills coming off a brutal loss. The Lions are dealing with a ton of injuries that hasn't caught up to them yet, but I thought the setup for this game, the way we talk about certain setups, this sets up. But Campbell's team plays so well. It just feels like it sets up as a Bills outright win. Maybe I would just bet the money line there.
So, as there are these other games, like the Jaguars don't have to think about it. Last week, Ram don't have to think about it. Unfortunately, this is an error in my system. If this was plus 3.5, I don't have to think about it. And I would like the Bills. I can't do plus 2.5 does nothing for me. Then I have to bet the money line. I feel like they're going to find a way to win this, but am I sure? Am I overwhelmingly confident? No, because the Lions, kind of like the Chiefs, but without having to face any of the backlash, they're weaseling through some of these games.
They are.
They're weaseling through some of these games. Yeah.
Right.
So then next up, we got Bucs-Chargers.
Tough game.
Tough loss for the Chargers. Chargers, you know what you're getting from them every single week. Bucs, I did see some concerning original turnovers from Baker Mayfield last week. The one thing that I wanted to point out, upset I didn't bring it up last week. Mike Evans needs to average like 90-something yards to keep his 1,000-yard streak alive. And that's something he has it every year of his career. I refuse to hear that that's not going to be a thing. That's not going to be something that they're trying to do because they talked about it last year. Baker got it for him last year. He missed some games. From here on out, look for Mike Evans to really get peppered deeper down the field. So, there are opportunity. I know last week you said you're always a fan of taking Mike Evans. You never have to be convinced. Well, for a guy who doesn't have to be convinced, there's a little extra convincing.
Maybe he'll get there. We'll see. I bet the under 46.5, but it looks like that's coming down.
Eagles, Steelers. This is your squad, so I'll let you.
It's tough. I mean, they just squeaked by last week. I'm not betting this game. Mike Tomlin is a dog in these marquee games, right? Like these highly type of anticipated games. He's just so good. He's so good at covering in these spots and really just winning outright in many of them. You've seen it all year. But then on the other hand, I look at this as an Eagles team and I'm thinking like, you knew that we talked about it last week. The Panthers game was bookended by a big win over Baltimore and then a huge game coming up at home against the Steelers. I don't think this game goes overlooked by this Eagles team. They could just come out and put the foot in the gas. So this is a pass for me. And I don't have a donkey chart play on this either.
So if I had to pick one here, it would just be the +5 because it's more than a field goal.
Exactly.
Philly's eking out some weird wins. There's a little squeaky wheel narrative with some of these receivers and that whole PR thing that's going on. We were talking about those lines moving and you feel good about getting this, feel good about getting that. Alex, if you could pull Devontae Smith's receiving, because I noticed quite a disparity yesterday. Not sure it's still going to exist today. This is one of those that if you're betting on Sunday, Price is Right style, how much you want to bet this is potentially 52 or 51 or could be if it continues to get bet this aggressively. And one thing that I'll just mention is there is that they're not throwing enough narrative and A.J. Brown complaining. Devontae Smith reportedly isn't thrilled as well. I don't know. If you believe that stuff, maybe they'll get the ball. Tough defense on the other side. We will see. Packers-Seahawks.
I liked the Seahawks at +3 earlier in the week. I thought it was a decent number for them at home. They're playing great football, and I think Mike McDonald finally has this defense gelling. But at 2.5, I'll pass.
Yeah. Seahawks are weaseling out these wins. Then what are these Monday nights? Bears-Vikings.
I got a fun stat for you. I know we're running up against it, but
yeah.
I was looking at this the other day, and how crazy is this? There has only been one game played between NFC North opponents this year that was decided by more than 3 points.
Wow.
It's pretty wild, right? And that was the Lions-Packers game where Jordan Love hurt his groin and came back, and he clearly wasn't 100%. Every other game has been decided by 3 or fewer points. Even like these weird Bears-Vikings, Bears-Packers, Vikings-Lions.
And yet because the Vikings just threw for 5 touchdowns last week and the Bears got absolutely cracked in San Francisco,
yep.
Everybody's going to disregard that stat you just said and bet on the Vikings. Falcons-Raiders. Falcons, disgrace. Raiders, bigger disgrace.
Take the rate. Andy, I know you.
I'm not taking Ritter. But the right side is the +4, but I just can't do it.
But I'm not saying to take it, but you're a principled man. There's no way you could justify laying 4 on this Falcons team on the road right now. I'm not saying to bet the Raiders, but you'd have to really convince me that laying more than a field goal on the Falcons, they were 4.5 on the road. Like, that just seems insane to me with the way this team has played lately.
Looks like I'll be focusing on hockey on Monday night because this is not one that I have to go with. So clearly the Bengals playing Tennessee, it's on that donkey charts.
Okay. Tougher week for this, huh? I'll go Commanders just to get it out of the way. I'll go Commanders, Bengals, Panthers on a quick scroll of my own.
I think the Chiefs just can't stop themselves from being on that list. Bengals, they're number 1, of course. Broncos?
Wow.
Who the hell? Who were they playing? I don't even remember.
Colts. Steelers at +5 or 1-2. That surprises me. Jets are still on there.
How about these Jets?
Vikings.
And then Vikings. And people still, that's what I was going to say. Do people maybe have faith in the Cardinals still? But man, after those kinds of losses, yeah, this was a tricky donkey chart week. But in my opinion, not the trickiest. I really, like last week, a lot of those props I thought had value. And I really do think a lot of these ones that I brought up today have value as well. Dave, thank you for coming. I underestimated what a week without buys looks like.
It's a lot.
I think we got some good ones in there. Thank you for coming back once again. Thank you for all watching once again. I look forward to to receiving your videos, where you can do the thing that I'm going to do right now, and that is ask for some clicks. Help me out by liking these videos, commenting, whatever the hell you want to comment. It's greatly appreciated. Tell me what you want for Christmas. While you're thinking about that, subscribe to the channel here, click the notifications, go check out Dave's stuff. I know plenty of you do that. His videos are great, breaks down every single game. He also has some other videos, some DFS stuff, so definitely continue to check that stuff out. And then we will be back with you next week for another week, week 16. We're really getting to the nitty-gritty here. This might be the end of it. So I better work on that Devil Angel Dave Dan photo. Dave, thanks again for coming back, man. Thanks. Have a good one, and I will see you next week.